Amitofo. Good evening and welcome back. This evening's program on fulfilling Master Hua's vows is an opportunity to look to the future of Master Hua's legacies. Our panelists will share their personal experiences and their vision for perpetuating Master Hua's legacies. Panelists, if again you could limit your comments to 10 minutes, we can have enough time for everyone. We'll begin this evening's program with a brief introduction by Dharma Master Heng Shi.
Good evening, everybody. 大家晚安. We're going to look now to the future. This morning we heard about how things were when our teacher arrived and the difficulties he encountered in bringing the Dharma to the West. This afternoon we heard from 3 of the 4 legacies, what is flourished from the roots that he set down in the beginning. Tonight we're going to look forward into the future. The question that our speakers are going to address is, given the beginnings with one pioneer, one pilgrim monk who came to the West, what he set down has grown into a tree with many branches. You might say even a forest, a Dharma forest with many, many branches. And the panelists who are going to speak are each going to address from their own different perspective what they see happening and perhaps what they hope will happen as well. Now, you'll notice a majority of men up here. That was not by design. That was just how things happened. We invited women to take part on the women's side, and the luck of the draw, you could say, has turned out that the men were able to take part. We're going to hear from Dharma Master Heng Shi from a tape that was recorded earlier, and we also hope that Madalena will come forward and speak. So please do not think that the men are showing their chauvinistic side and oppressing the women. That is not the case. What's that? At least not tonight. That's right. So, all right. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it back over to Brian, who will introduce our next speaker, our first speaker.
We begin with Dharma Master Heng Lu. Dharma Master Lu first met Master Hua in Taiwan and became a monastic in 1990. He was appointed abbot of the City of 10,000 Buddhas in 1993. Over the years, he has directed the training of monastics, served as principal of the schools in the 1990s, and participates actively in interfaith activities at the City of 10,000 Buddhas. Please welcome Dharma Master Heng Lu.
Venerable Master, distinguished guests, Honorable Dharma Masters, and all of Gudong advisors, good evening, Amitofo. Last month, there were many activities in San Francisco to celebrate the Golden Gate Bridge 75th anniversary. It reminds me that the Venerable Master is like a great bridge across the Pacific Ocean to bring the Dharma, proper Dharma, from Asia to the West. And also is a bridge to help us get to the other side of liberation and the pure land of ultimate bliss. As we know, it's difficult to build a Golden Gate Bridge 75 years ago. However, it's more difficult for him to come to the West and propagate the Dharma. As we have heard, the Madalena said in the morning, this morning, she told Venerable Master, America is not beautiful. You have done everything yourself. It's true. Even in 1995, the Venerable Master was so ill, sick. He still did his laundry, washed his clothes himself, and refused his attendant's help. As he said, when he came to this country facing many difficulties of environments and finance, he did manage and clean up apartments to rent out. Sometimes he received bad checks for the rent, not to mention other difficulties. We have heard this morning. As we know, he is a man among men. He moved forward to propagate the Dharma and benefit the living beings. Even before he entered Nirvana, he did his best to teach his disciple. Today, we gather here together because of his many virtue. It's also a good opportunity for us to check whether we are on the bridge he built for us, which is the 6 great principles. If we truly put this principle in our daily life, as he said, we will be peaceful and happy all the time. We are true disciples, even we don't meet him. Also, Buddhas in the future from the city of 10,000 Buddhas. Here, I would remind, please wear more clothes for tomorrow morning's meditation, because it's pretty cold tomorrow early morning. Some of you may ask, how about the Great Hall? How about the IIP? Is a campus project? In December 2002, the government approved our IIP East Campus project. However, we suspended in 2005 because the cost was too high and the space was not big enough, because we built on wetland. So we did adjustment, and to reply again. And last year, government approved our adjustment. It means our project extended to the north, 600 foot. We have more space, and the cost will go down without touching wetland. As we know, Shifu had a very high expectation of us. It is that we unite under the 6 green principles to benefit living beings in Sangha, education, translation, interface, and other fields such as vegetarian restaurant, organic farm, Buddhist clinic, Buddhist senior home, or even the Buddhist TV program. 师父 did the One for Lingmen, the TV program. 10,000 Buddhas come into your door, and etc. There are so many things we can do. As the Sifu said, don't worry. As you truly cultivate, what you want will come true. 阿弥陀佛。
Dharma Master Heng Che was ordained as a Buddhist nun in 1969 and is a founding member of Dharma Realm Buddhist Association and an active translator, editor, and certifier for the Buddhist Text Translation Society. She served as the primary translator of the Sharangamana Sutra in the early 1970s and was one of the first students who attended the first 10-week Sharangama retreat led by the Venerable Master in the summer of 1968. At this time, we're going to watch a video clip from Heng Che. Are we ready to go, Ching-Wei?
Yes. Can we
okay.
get the
Very
lights? Could we turn on the lights? Could somebody get the lights? Guys.
DRBA started with Americans under Shifu. That's how it started because we were the ones who came to him. And he had Chinese followers and supporters, many. But they had a different function. They were supporting him, perhaps with offerings, certainly with his own needs in the country and with documentation for the association. But they were not the people who were around him every day, all day. Those who were around him for that first period were Americans. And so with that came a burden for Shifu because he had no one around him close who really knew what to do, how to conduct themselves, either as lay people or as monastics. He had to teach us all of that. And also, he was a male. And so for those of us who were women, he would often say it's not easy because there are ways that to be taught that I am unable to do. And so sometimes he would recommend a qualified layperson, or he would recommend, as things went on and there were more senior nuns, the senior nuns began to take on teaching and helping the female part of the Sangha. So for a long time, Shifu had that burden of, 所以师父那个时候我们也不懂得唯意，我们也不懂得做在家居士是应该怎么做，做出家人是应该怎么做，因为我们没有在我们的文化背景没有那个一个亚洲人他也会看到出家人会看到庙，我们多半都没有，所以可以说呢，刚开始我相信师父的负担是比较重。但是呢，话也说回来，我们是非常非常，我们对那个要修行是非常有心，心对师父跟佛教也是非常坚固，所以呀，也有好也有不好。刚开始，后来大概到1990年那个时候，我们去台湾开一个佛学院之后，开始有一群一群的那个亚洲人进来。 那然后啊，师父也讲，早早都给我们讲，如果佛教要扎根在西方，那他来是为了佛教要扎根在西方，必须要求跟西方合作，必须要有那个已经了解佛教是怎么回事，跟不了解但是很有信心、很有兴趣的人合并，佛教的那个根才可以扎得很坚固。师父 told us, and then the Asians came in. It was in 1989 we went to Taiwan and established a Buddhist academy. And then, 10s, 20s, 30s, the Asians began to come in to the association. And Shifu told us all along, before that happened and certainly after it happened, that this was a very important meeting between West and East. Obviously, Shifu came here to do his Buddhism because he wanted to put Buddhism's roots into Western soil. And he had us, and we were very faithful to him and very eager to practice. And when the Asians came, they brought with them a knowledge that's sort of in the language itself and in the customs and in all that they had known. Most of them, their amas, their grandmas would go and bow to the Buddhas, and that all was part of their culture. And so they brought a stability of continuing Buddhism as it was practiced. And we brought curiosity and eagerness and a lot of naivety to it. And the two had to come together. And he said when they came together, that the Asian stability of knowing what a monastic life was like and how to be a person and how to carry on the functions of Buddhism, and this young eagerness to learn and to do, that would be a very good combination. And I see the RBA doing that. I see that happening. The pendulum, I think of it that way, sometimes swings so there's more Westerners, sometimes swings so there's more Asians, but we have so many, really international, we have so many countries represented and so many nationalities represented, and we keep moving forward. And I believe that combination he talked about is working.
Chinese about this part?
我说其实法总他也是可以说是国际性的会，因为呢很多国家的人就来出家或者做在家居士，那他自己把他的文化什么都来，那我们都是要合作要合并，所以我想我自己认为法总实在不是中国，也不是美国，也不是西方，也不是东方，它是国际性，那国际性也有一股力量。
Dharma Master Hung Lai first met the Venerable Master at the Buddhist lecture hall. Sorry? Not here. Okay. I wanted to share the story about Dharma Master Lai, though.
Now's the time.
Now is the time? In his absence? When Dharma Master Lai was challenged by the Master to make a commitment towards becoming a better person, Hung Lai ran away rather than accept the challenge. Master Hua, knowing he would return, gave him the Dharma name Guo Hui, which means the one who returns. That was all. Dharma Master sure told me that story. Let's welcome back Madalena Tan.
Good evening, everybody. I guess some of you probably tired of my speaking. You see me 3 times today. But anyway, I'm so honored to be here to talk to all of you. I guess because I'm an old relic, huh? 老古董. But anyway, I would like to share some of the thoughts from our Shifu, Venerable Master Xuanhua. When I first met Shifu, I was a little girl. Now I'm an old lady. Well, that's a good laugh, huh? But anyway, because Shifu's belief, his vows, and the way he practiced really influenced me a lot. I remember he said to me when I was in Hong Kong and leaving for America, he gave me 4 characters. And these 4 characters in Chinese is called 立言, 立行. If some of you had read some old Chinese classic, that's the 儒家. They also have that 立言, 立功. 立功 is almost like 立行. In English, that means if you say something, you have to do what you said. That means you do whatever you promised to do. And then at that time, I didn't really understand that much of the old Chinese classic because I was educated in a Christian school. And most of the time, we only learn about Bible, not Buddhist text, and not the Confucius scriptures. So I asked Sifu, what this mean? 立言, 立行. He said that means if you promise, you have to do it. And in order to honor your words and do whatever you said, then you will have virtue. So because I received these 4 characters from our Shifu, and so I really remember, because I watched Shifu, like I said this morning, for over 60 years. And everything that I experienced with him is always, he always honored his words. So for his wish for us, or his expectation for us, he wanted to build up the Sangha, the monastic, in America. But also, I remember way back that he treated every Sangha or every monastic that are his disciples always with very, very touching care. That really influenced me a lot. I often heard from some other people telling me, now Shifu's not there, it's not the same anymore. Because we don't feel like, we don't feel the closeness like when Shifu was here. I don't know that we should think about this. But I do want to tell everybody, although Shifu's physical body is not around, but his spirit is always with us. So in order to carry his spirits, we should just unite together and think of a way to give our cares, our kindness, our love to all the newcomers, especially for those people that have never met the Venerable Master. I think that's all I want to share with all of you. And I don't want you to see me too much. Anyway, thank you very much. Amitabha.
Thank you, Madalena. Thank you for first inviting the Venerable Master to come to America. Now let's welcome back distinguished Professor Dr. Ron Epstein.
Good evening. Is this working okay? I was asked to speak this evening about the future, particularly the future of the Venerable Master's 4 legacies. So I thought I would try to talk about DRBA 50 years hence. I only have 10 minutes, so there's not much that I can say in that time. So I thought maybe what I could do is to share with you some mental snapshots or photos or pictures for each one of the 4 legacies. These are not my predictions, but they're my hopes, although they're based on what I heard from the Venerable Master. You might think, well, this is just a lot of wangxiang, but I would like to remind you that hopes are the mothers of vows, and vows are the foundation of directed action. So maybe there is some value in hopes. I'll leave that up to you to decide. But if these hopes are to come true, each and every one of us is going to have a lot more work to do. So, first of all, the Sangha legacy. What I see 50 years hence is a Buddhist community comprised of the 4 assemblies, where the Sangha holds strictly to the Vinaya, including the daily alms round, where everyone eats pure vegetarian food, and lay families engage in right livelihood. In this Sangha, In this community, the Sangha takes a leading role in teaching the children to respect their parents and elders and to cherish their own personal purity. Every member of this Sangha is fully devoted to becoming a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. And every day there are lectures on the sutras that everyone enthusiastically attends. I see 50 years in the future DRBA monasteries and convents upholding the Sangha conduct of the right Dharma age, not only here, but on every continent, not only in the United States and in China, but also in Europe, in Brazil, in Paraguay, in Africa, etc. Thank you. Translation. I hope that 50 years in the future, we have beautiful and accurate translations by the Buddhist Text Translation Society of all the core works of the Buddhist canon, together with authoritative commentaries by both the Master and his disciples, available free in every medium, from handwritten to print to the manifold forms of cyberspace scripture, all easy to find, all available all over the world. I see well-trained Buddhist Text Translation Society translators who can also aid the living, good, and wise teachers of the future to spread the right understandings of the Dharma in all the languages and countries of the earth. Education. I see schools attached to every major DRBA monastery, together with finely crafted curricula based on Buddhist principles. The primary objective of these schools is to educate a new generation of talented leaders to change the world into a better place. Leaders in the Sangha and leaders in the lay community. I also see fully accredited campuses of DRBU, not only here at the City of 10,000 Buddhas, but on every continent. You remember Shifu had chancellors from 5 continents, each associated with a monastery or a convent as the spiritual heart of the university. I see one outside of Washington, D.C., I see another one in China, close to Nanjing, and also in the other continents of the world. Interfaith. I see yearly interfaith gatherings hosted by DRBA, including those from other religions who are people of integrity, character, of great virtue, who understand the principles of personal purity, and who cherish life and nourish compassion. I see all these people, both Buddhists and non-Buddhists from other religions, working together for interfaith harmony based on understanding and mutual respect for inner peace, for family peace, for community peace, and for world peace. My final mental picture, or snapshot, for the Fourfold Assembly here this evening is not from 50 years hence, because it's a snapshot that I hope to live to see myself. And that is, I hope to see one of you or more here this evening as a new, fully awakened one. And I hope to see you sitting on top of the mountain gate of the City of 10,000 Buddhas, explaining the Dharma to several thousand people who are seated on the front lawn, all silent, all attentive, all sincere. All those people are listening to you, whoever you are, and all of them are listening with open hearts. Thank you. Amitofo.
Wonderful. Thank you for those hopes and visions. A native of Wisconsin, Martin Verhoeven holds a PhD from the University of Wisconsin at Madison. An early disciple of Master Hua, formerly known as Bhikshu Hung Chao, he began a 2-year, 3 steps, 1 bow pilgrimage only days after leaving home. He returned to lay life while continuing to teach both academic studies and Dharma at the Graduate Theological Union and Dharma Realm Buddhist University. He has contributed scholarly articles to many books and has re-edited The Gospel of Buddha, published by Open Court Press. Let's welcome back, please, Dr. Martin Verhoeven.
I told Ron that his hopes were pure and lofty so that he couldn't not be here in 50 years to watch them come true. He has to allow that much time for this to be realized. So we hope him 50 more years of continued life. Okay. I feel a little bit like Madalena. This is my second time up here. I'm not quite as old, but I Iche Wuchang, it's impermanence comes to all. Some of my students said, please don't blather on tonight, tell stories. So I'll do a little bit of both. When I first came to Gold Mountain Monastery, I heard the expression, the Master's Dharma, and both, I didn't know what that meant. So there was a senior monk at the time there, and I asked him, what is Shifu's Dharma? What is the Master's Dharma? And he said, oh, it's real simple. All living beings have the Buddha nature, and all can become Buddhas. And I must say I was floored. I'd never heard anything like that before, so direct, so profound, and right to me in English. And it really moved me. At that moment, I decided I was going to stay. So as this progressed, and Shifu explained it more, he would say, Fo Zhi Xin, this Buddha is just this mind. This mind is just the Buddha, meaning this mind, our capacity. And then he published a wonderful little book that you haven't read, you should take a look at, called The 10 Dharma Realms Are Not Beyond a Single Thought. His essence of his teaching was always that capacity, that inherent capacity for Buddha, for awakening, was within each and every one of us. And his major focus was to draw that out of us. That's what his teaching was all about. Now, there's been a lot of really wonderful talk today about how nice it was to be around Shifu and how we miss him dearly, and that's all true. But I want to be a little bit on the other side now and say it wasn't Disneyland. And by that I mean, when Shifu made these statements about this intrinsic nature, then he would say, and I've come to America to make not clay and wood and bronze and gilded Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but flesh and bone, living Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And I was thinking at the time, well, where are they going to come from? Where are these living American Buddhas and Bodhisattvas going to come from? And then it dawned on me, unfortunately, they would come from the likes of us. Now, since I wasn't a Buddha or Bodhisattva, very far from it, and some of you have heard the early stories of the disciples, none of us were, how is that going to come about? So this is where I'm saying it wasn't Disneyland. Because in order to go from where we were to approach that vision, we had to change. And so what Shifu was a smelter. He was a furnace of smelting energy. And every time you were in his presence, you were being pressured to change. Bad habits and faults, the ones that were most difficult, were the ones that he went after. For me, it was arrogance. My arrogance was so deep that I had no idea I was arrogant. Until he pointed it out, and pointed it out, and pointed it out. The point I'm making was, to enter Shifu's presence meant a happiness beyond belief, but also a difficulty beyond belief. So when Shifu came, and I don't think I'm alone in saying this, when he arrived at the city, when he was visiting, there was a happy, scared feeling. You were very happy to see him again until you remembered you were going to have to go into the furnace and change. And then we got scared. How scared did people get? They would hide. Honestly, Shifu would drive in, get out of the car, and you would think it was a city of 10,000 ghosts. Even the people in the office would hide. Hung Zhou, who was watching The Office at the time, ran down and hid in a book room. The master came up, he was ringing the bell. Yo Ren, Meo Ren. Nobody's there. And then Hung Zhou would come out and say, oh, Shifu. I said, what's wrong with you? I'm scared. What are you afraid of? You. And the master says, no, you're not afraid of me, you're afraid of your own ghost. Whoa. That self that resists change, that's all you're afraid of. And I'm just that mirror for you to see that. That's what that was like. So now I'll tell you the story of how the master illustrated this once. A scholar came to Gold Mountain Monastery in the early days, and after lunch we were sitting in the back, and he said, Master Hua, what's the essence of Buddhism? And Shifu, being a teacher, didn't answer, but said to all of us sitting around, now's your chance to shine. Give him the answer. And so foolishly we all started piping up. Wisdom, compassion. What else would you say? Anybody? Nobody's biting? Wisdom, compassion, Thinking? Patience. We would go through the parameters. Giving, morality, patience, vigor, concentration, wisdom. Shifu was going, no. And we're getting very, very frustrated. Somebody finally said, non-attachment. Shifu said, absolutely not. So we all said, well, what is it then, Shifu? And he said, change. Change. He said, everybody must change. That's the essence of Buddhism. And so there was a little novice there at the time who was about 12 years old. So you can't officially leave home until you're 19. That's the age of reason in Buddhism. In the larger society, it's probably closer to 59, but 19. And so he was a novice, and he wanted to win. And he didn't give the right answer, but now is his chance. And Shifu, he said, well, what do you mean, Shifu? He says, well, if I have disciples who break the precepts, who kill and steal, they have to stop doing that and hold the 5 precepts. And the people that are holding the 5 precepts have to hold them purely and then move on to the Bodhisattva precepts. And people who are holding the Bodhisattva precepts have to cultivate until they become arhats. And the scholar was really impressed. So the little novice said, so what happens if they become arhats? And the master just smiled and said, then they have to become bodhisattvas. And so he thought for a while. He thought, so what if they become bodhisattvas? And Shifu was just kind of reeling him along, and Shifu says, then they have to become Buddhas. So now he had his checkmate. So he said, and if they become a Buddha, then what? And the master just smiles and says, then they have to be bodhisattvas again. Like Guanyin Bodhisattva was once a Buddha and came back to be a bodhisattva. And then he said, but we'll never get to rest. And Shifu said, I know what you're thinking. You saw that reclining Buddha. And you thought, at 13 years old, you'll be the reclining Buddha. He said, but that's not an American Buddha. And the novice went, what do you mean? He says, that's an Asian Buddha. And no, he said, yeah, in Asia it's so hot the Buddha has to take a nap in the afternoon. But here in San Francisco, it's not hot, so we don't get to lie down and take naps. America's going to have standing and walking Buddhas, no lying down Buddhas. So this is the first story about that change, and what I'm talking about, that scared happy, had to do with the pressure on us to change. So the future I envision would be something along the lines of we don't lose that tension. We don't lose the vulnerability of always being in the cauldron of change. And then there'll be a real future for the Dharma. Now, Dharma Master Lai has come back. Wei Lai. So I'll finish with another illustration, and this ties in with a lot of people have been saying. If you come to this Dharma, if you see yourself as joining in, perhaps in one of the 4 snapshots that Ron just outlined, which one should it be? Which role should you play? And I'll illustrate this also with a story. Way back in the early 70s, about 1977, we were in Gold Wheel Temple in Pasadena. A small little temple, like a living room, and the conversations that Sherpa would have there in his lectures were very intimate and good. That particular night, I at least felt and could see the room just fill up with this wonderful, soft, golden light, just immensely gathering in and warm. And in that light, as I looked around the room at all the people there, and there was Chinese, there was Vietnamese, Cambodians, Americans, Europeans, suddenly everybody looked so familiar to me, more familiar than my own family. And the Chinese people looked Western to me. And the Western people looked Chinese. And I was going, whoa, what's going on here? And right at that moment, in the middle of the lecture, Sherpa said, now take a look around this room, everybody. Do you recognize each other? And people were just looking. He said, some of you look Chinese who aren't Chinese, and some of you look Western who aren't Western. Why is this? And I didn't know where to go with that. And the master said, I'll tell you why. Many, many, many lifetimes ago, you were all in my assembly, my Dharma assembly in India. And you were all my close disciples. And at that time, during one of my talks to you, I made a vow that in a future time, I was going to go to this funny place, this strange land that nobody had ever heard of yet, called America, to propagate the Dharma. And he said, in the midst of your enthusiasm in that assembly, you all made vows to accompany me. And he said, so here we are. Some of you made vows to leave home and become monks and nuns. Some of you made vows to teach in schools. Some of you made vows to translate. Some of you made vows to cook vegetarian food. Some of you made vows to do buildings and build architecture. Some of you made vows to make money in support of the Triple Jewels, so the schools and everything could go on. He said, all of you foolishly made these vows a long, long time ago. And he says, now, even if you want to, you can't get out of it. And as I listened to that, it made sense with what I was experiencing, but it also just blew my mind. I'm using an expression from the 60s because I was thinking here and now, America 1970 or whatnot, and even in our talks tonight, we're talking in a limited snapshot. But in the realm that Sherpa was operating, the Dharma coming to this particular West is a blimp in a huge movement across quadrillions of worlds over time, where the Dharma goes from place to place, and we who have affinities, which includes everybody in this room tonight or you wouldn't be here, we who have affinities with that go along and can't get out of it, and we end up doing things that are in support of this in many different functions. It's going to change. Already we saw the young people talking about IT and technology. This is a new dimension with people whose vows will take them there. We'll develop that. It's unlimited what the possibilities are. So what it is, if you feel called in some way to participate, Don't try to use your head to figure out what is best. Use your heart and listen to yourself and say, where is my path in promoting this Dharma? And then everything will work out. Shifu said, listen to yourself and be true, and you have no problems. So I offer this tonight as my sort of projection of where this might go, and then maybe with one exhortation, don't make any plans, just make vows. Thank you.
The Dharma Master, formerly known as Guo Wei, the one who returns, has returned. Dharma Master Hung Lai first met the Venerable Master at the Buddhist Lecture Hall in Waverly Place in San Francisco. He's currently the manager of Snow Mountain Monastery in Index, Washington. Hung Lai has been ordained for 35 years and truly merits the name Senior Sangha Member. Let's please welcome back Dharma Master Hung Lai.
The Venerable Master, to the Great Assembly, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Amitofo. They asked me to come and talk about the future of Buddhism, but I'm too stupid. I don't know which way the Buddhism future is. I don't even know the past of Buddhism, much less the future of Buddhism. But I have to talk, so I talk. They asked me to talk about Shifu's wishes, so I can only tell you that I asked Shifu one time. Well, actually, it was on the way back from the first delegation I went with the Master, which was in, I think, 1981. I'm not good about dates, though. And we went to all kinds of places. We went to Taiwan and Malaysia, Hong Kong. And on the way back, Shifu told me, he was sitting next to me and he said, I know you did a lot of suffering in this trip because you couldn't run away. And he says, the reason you're with me now is because in the past, in China, you made a vow that you would come help me in the West, so that's why you're here. So I told Shifu, well, Shifu, I don't remember. And he goes, it doesn't matter if you remember or you don't remember, it's just the way it is, don't worry about it. And he says, and I said, well, you know, even though I really fear the Venerable Shu Yun because he's so fierce looking, I really like the idea that he lives so long. And she was, oh, you want to live a long time? I said, oh, just for the fun of it, I try it once. He goes, well, if you want to live a long time, you have to not get angry. If you don't get angry, it's for sure you can live a long time. But I can't guarantee anything if you get angry. So that was my little talk about the future of Buddhism with Shifu. But from that experience and all the time I spent with the Master, I knew that there's no real escaping helping out Shifu. Because we've made this vow and we're all going to be helping him out for unspeakable numbers of aeons until we become Buddhas. And the reason is because Shifu is patiently waiting for us. And I remember time and again going out with the Master when we would be invited to go to places. He's always trying to cross over living beings. That's his job, the Bodhisattva. And one time somebody invited Shifu to go to Golden Gate Park. They had an aquarium there at the time. And they thought that would be a nice little vacation for Shifu, so they invited him. And little did they know, Shifu, okay, we'd go. So he went to the aquarium. And it had a bunch of animals there. They had crocodiles and fish. And so they said, look, Shifu, all the strange living beings. And Shifu's busily saying mantras for him. He wasn't there as a tourist. He was there doing his job. He was saying he's crossing over all these living beings, and they all had conditions with him. And he told us that at the time. He says, all these living beings, you all laughing want to see the pretty fish, but all those living beings, we all have conditions with them. And I need to get them out of their difficulty right now, because they don't even have a chance to cultivate. So the master was always working, all the time. He was always crossing over living beings. Even when he was walking around the grounds at CTTB, he was reciting for the peacocks. He was reciting for about any kind of strange animal that would come up to him. And this is what impressed me most. That, as Marty said, we're in this millennia now, this one little blip of time, but we're all Shifu's disciples, and we're always going to be Shifu's disciples until we all become Buddhas. So I just tell everybody, please get used to it. Amitofo.
Born to a Buddhist family in Taiwan, John Chu studied at Chengji University in Taiwan and joined the Foreign Service Department in the Taiwanese State Department. He came to America and served in the Diplomatic Corps in Washington, D.C. There he met the Venerable Master with his wife Yvonne, who was finishing her MA degree in Environmental Engineering at George Washington University. Devoted to Dharma, John and his family made the difficult decision to give up the quest for worldly success and personal financial security and move to Ukiah to start a family in Mendocino County in order to serve the Buddhist community led by a good and wise advisor. He has been the first face that many meet in the front office as they drive through the mountain gate into the city of 10,000 Buddhas. Please let's welcome John Chu.
Good evening, Dharma Masters and all good and wise advisors. I think I share a short story regarding I work as a Shifu's correspondent secretary. I moved here in 1991. At that time, a senior Upasaka, his name is Zhou Guoli. He was going back to China. And I was asked to take care of his work. Basically, he taking care of all the mail, incoming and outgoing correspondent of the Venerable Master. So the first day when I work, I asked Venerable Master, what is the job description? And when the mail comes, should I separate just the temple's mail, and that is your personal mail, and I just taking care of the public, and then you see your own personal mail? And surprised me, Shifu told me, I don't have any personal mail. All the mail are temple's public correspondent. So from that time up to Shifu entered Imana, I have opportunity to serve for him, and I witness his selflessness. And this first story I would like to share with you. And tonight we suppose look into the future. We are here to commemorate Master Hua's bringing Dharma to the West 50 years ago. These past 50 years, there have been countless beings who have been benefit from his teaching. This including every one of us, including myself, as recipient of his great compassion. Some people have received his Dharma skin. Some have received his Dharma flesh. Some have received his Dharma marrow. But no matter what parts of the Dharma we have received, we are all one body. We are all a member of the great assembly of the Dharma realm. So the new, younger generation need to learn from the earlier Dharma master and disciples. And the earlier ones also should nurture and support the new ones. Because no matter whether one had received the skin, flesh, bone, or marrow, we have together received from the Master Hua's Dharma body. And we should introduce Buddha Dharma to every corner of the world and share it with every living being. We know that Master have 4 great legacies, including monastic Sangha, translation, Buddhist Sutra, reforming education, and interfaith dialogue. In DRPA, these 4 areas are like 2 hands and feet of a human, or like 4 brothers who must help each other, so that they can together accomplish Master Hua's vow of bringing proper Dharma to all places. A few days ago, I was talking with 2 younger volunteers here in CTTP, knowing that tomorrow, Sunday, was the memorial day for the Master Hua's entering stillness. And there will be a special meal offering, Chuan Gong, so in which we offer beautifully prepared dishes to express our gratitude. And we were thinking, other than this annual tradition, is there a way we might make offering to express our gratitude every day to Master, to repay his kindness? And one of the volunteers, he said, we can offer the gift of Dharma. And I asked him, he comes from Malaysia. Many people think that only Dharma Master can offer the gift of Dharma. So how can you do that? He replied, I can tell others what I learned of the Dharma, and that is the giving of the Dharma. And another volunteer who worked at the organic farm, he said to speak Dharma and explain the sutra to others is giving Dharma. But to practice the principle expressed in the sutra is also the giving of Dharma. But is there something can be more completely integrated into our lives so that we might practice the giving of Dharma in all times and places? So we 3 investigate this by looking into the sutra. And we found that in the Universal Worthy Bodhisattva's Practice and Vows chapter in Avatamsaka Sutra, there is a description of 7 types of the giving of Dharma. And the text goes like this. Good man, of all the form of giving, the giving of Dharma is supreme. This including the offering of practicing according to one's speech. So some people speak, this is called to explain the sutra. And some people practice, this is called practicing the sutra. And second one, the offering of benefiting all beings. And the offering of gathering in all beings. The offering of taking on the suffering of all beings. The offering of vigorously cultivating roots of goodness. The offering of not letting go of the Bodhisattva's conduct. And last one is the offering of not departing from the resolve for awakening. So according to this 7 type, we who want to repay the kindness of our teacher, in addition to this special meal offering once a year, we can practice this 7 form of the giving of Dharma in our daily life. So in thinking about the future of DRBA and CTTB, Master Hua already provide a clear direction and principle by which to live. So as long as we can uphold the tradition of CTTB and the 6 guiding principle, take the precept as our teacher, take the 6 guiding principle as our teacher, and CTTB will continue to act as a lighthouse in the Saha world. That is how we can further develop Master Hua's vow and 4 legacies for the world. Master Hua say of the CTTB, it would be better to have no people here than to have no Dharma here. As long as there is Dharma here, people will come, will gather in. As long as we keep the Dharma alive in our practice, we are contributing to the future of DRBA. For this 50th anniversary event, our various teams have fully cooperated with each other. Especially those in the younger generation, they have given their best and most sincere effort to make this event happen smoothly and successfully. For this, we can see the success of our education and also the future of DRBA. This is very encouraging for us to see. And the senior disciple, their contribution to this organization also inspire a lot of respect. So they pass their wisdom and their experience to the younger generation, which demonstrate their selflessness and open-heartedness. In this association, we have many people who quietly work very hard to contribute. There are people who have been moved. These are people who have been moved by the virtue of the Venerable Master, or even been saved their life by the Venerable Master. So they give what they can, whether it is the form of material support or time and energy. For example, about 3 days ago, I received a phone call from New Jersey. And this is a lay woman. She never came to CTTB before. And she encountered Venerable Master's Dharma from DRBA's website about 5 years ago. And as a recipient of Sufu's teaching, she from the website know we have a 50 years anniversary, and she sent an overnight offering to our event. And in the last 5 years, she just quietly do a lot of contribution in her workplace. And she, over the phone, told me she is so grateful to Sufu and all CTTB Dharma masters who uphold pure precept and practice in accord with Buddha Dharma. She said it is so valuable to have CTTB acting as a jewel pearl and shining the brightness in the world. She also suggests that we improve our website because it is an important resource for whom want to study Buddha Dharma, but they live far away and cannot come to CTTB frequently. I hope that the young generation, young people who have been involved in helping to plan and coordinate this 50th anniversary event will bring this spirit of dedication and giving to their homes, school, and workplaces. This will also help to pass the core value of DRBA to the following generation. We wish to see young people continue to think about and practice way of giving Dharma, which mentioned above in the Universal Worthy Bodhisattvas practice and vow chapter. I think the time is up. So I wish everyone have feel of the joy of Dharma and always help each other on the path of awakening and realize Buddhahood very soon. 阿弥陀佛。
And finally, the director, our final panelist will be the director of the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery and the Institute for World Religions and the president of the Dharmaram Buddhist Association. Let's welcome back Dharma Master Heng Shi.
We have heard so much inspiration tonight. I feel, without having had dinner, I feel full. 法喜充满，禅悦未失。Taking the joy of the bliss of dhyana as your food and being filled with the Dharma joy. Like Ron, Professor Epstein, I had snapshots that I wanted to share. And let's talk first about education. Why did Shifu say to us, if education thrives, the Buddha Dharma will thrive. If education does not change, then the Buddha Dharma will not flourish here. He said, get me straight, in these words. He said, understand me. Here at the City of 10,000 Buddhas, we are doing education. Now, clearly Shifu wanted to make Buddhas. He wanted to make bodhisattvas and arhats and sages. We understand that. Shifu only wanted us to wake up using the Dharma. Why did he say education? I think that needs clarification. I don't think Shifu meant only that we have to go back to learning ABCs and arithmetic. If we come as adults, we've already finished our education, right? Well, no, not entirely. What did Shifu mean then? I think he meant this, that in this country, it's called a pluralistic religious society. There are many, many religions in this country. People go to church in this country. Everybody more or less has their religious identity. If we come in and set up Buddhism as yet another church, yet another tradition with our rituals, with our practices, with our foods, with our clothes and such, people in America will go, oh yeah, well, you're Buddhist, that's nice, I'm not that. They draw a line and they'll come to the Thanksgiving prayer breakfast and basically leave us alone. In America, in North America, in the West, religion is often a source of contention. What did Shifu say? He said, don't call it Buddhism. Call it the teaching of wisdom. Call it the teaching of living beings. Call it the teaching of the mind. Call it the most profound depth psychology, he said. If we set up schools and say, we're here all studying wisdom, who's opposed to wisdom? Nobody's opposed to wisdom. We're here studying compassion. You want to come find out about your humanity here? We're here studying virtue, how to become better people. We're education in the Buddhist tradition to make the best possible people. People will come in regardless of their religious orientation. If we set up schools, it's a big open door for people of all religions to enter. So I think that's why we say education first, so that Westerners will feel comfortable coming in without having to set aside at first, without having to challenge their own identity as religious people, Jews, Catholics, Muslims, Hindus, atheists, scientists. They're all welcome within the door of wisdom. So, I think the goal of education is to train better people. I think Shifu had in mind better people make a better world. And the long-term goal is to save the world from ignorance, wars, calamities. The goal here is not necessarily to educate more Buddhists, but to educate good people. If the Buddhist-inspired, the Buddhist-informed education can make good and virtuous people, then automatically we will be making more Buddhists and eventually more Buddhas, because the foundation in virtue will be there. Now, I honestly think Shifu was not wrong in saying what he said. I think he meant exactly what he said. Get me straight. He said, here we are teaching the Dharma through education. That's what we're doing here at the City of 10,000 Buddhas. I believe he really meant that. If you look at the mountain gate, that's what it says. 教育英才, right? We're training talented people. Now, I think Shifu clearly saw our situation here in the West, and that's a bold statement for me to say that I know what it is, but I do know that I did not hear the word filiality until I came to Gold Mountain Monastery. I was typing on my iPad, and I typed in filiality. It auto-corrected to finally it's. Filiality was not even in the glossary for the iPad to accept. So how far are we from virtue? Right? Shifu taught us at the City of 10,000 Buddhas to teach our kids to be filial. At the same time, us adult types, or older types at least, grown-up kids, came in not knowing about repaying parents' kindness. So our first job in this country to teach the Dharma is to teach people how to be better people. And we haven't changed that much. The nature is the same. What do we start with? Virtue starts with reconnecting with that gift of kindness that we receive from our parents. It's a joy to repay it. It's not filial piety. It's not filial obedience. It's called repaying parents' kindness. Well, who knew that? I didn't. So I learned that, and here we have our teacher, Master Shrenhua, who is a filial son, sitting 3 years by his mother's grave. His teacher was Master Shuyun, who did a pilgrimage across China to repay his parents' kindness, and Shifu's refuge teacher and his head-shaving teacher were both filial sons, Changren, Changzhi, Lao Fa Shi. They were all filial. One sat for 6 years by his parents' grave. So in our tradition, honoring that first connection is very important. And then you go from there with that foundation in virtue to cultivate any way you want, and the precept root, the virtue of your nature, is bright. It will accept any kind of cultivation. So if we try to teach the Dharma here, starting at the top with emptiness, with prajna paramita, people cannot hold that vision because the foundation isn't strong. That's why I'm thinking that Shifu said, here we teach education. Because for me, growing up in the West, mainstream American education and culture, I got the car keys at age 16 and drove out of the driveway, bye-bye, Mom and Dad, you know, I'm gone, I'm out of here. And didn't think to turn back until I got to Gold Mountain and met a filial son. Filial son Bai. So here at the City of 10,000 Buddhas, not just the kids, but the other folks, especially the Westerners that come in the door, need to put some water and fertilizer on our roots of humanity. That's how we start bringing the Dharma to the West. It's not wrong when Shifu says, we are here doing education to teach the Dharma. I think that's really important in the future. I want to see that grasped, flourished, paid for. You can't do schools without teachers. You can't do schools without staff. You can't do schools without chalk for the chalkboards. We have to pay for education. It's not a bargain. And if we put the resources there, we will see the Dharma grow. I really believe it. Now, another super important thing coming from the West is that I grew up a Protestant. I was raised in the Methodist Church, and I was president of my Methodist Youth Fellowship at age 14 when I left the Methodist Church. And my Methodist Church, it's a wonderful institution, and it teaches good people. It's a good society there. But it's very sterile. There are various historical reasons for it. Not to go into it tonight, we don't have time. But Protestantism was in reaction to the excess of the Catholic Church in Europe. And so the Protestants wanted one thing. They wanted gospel. Gospel was the words of Jesus. It was called Logos. That's where you found religion. Everything else was swept away because the Reformation was there to bring the Catholic Church down a notch. So I inherited that in America as a cross without Jesus on it, stained glass windows that had no stained glass images, just color. We sang hymns, we passed the plate, we said Amen, praise God from whom all blessings flow, and that was basically it. We got the sermon from the preacher and that was it. It was very sterile. There were no dragons, there were no gods, there were no living beings. There were no Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, sages, Arhats, Prachika Buddhas. There were the hells, and you could go to hell, and there were the heaven. There was heaven, and you go to God, singular, right? So I walked away from that, and that teaching perfectly fit our mechanized consumer society. When I got to Gold Mountain Monastery, and I looked around, and I saw, oh, wow, what are all these figures? And the Ten Commandments says they're graven idols, graven images. Never mind, we won't go there tonight. But look around you. 10,000 Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, gods, dragons, Garudas, Kinyaras, Mahoragas, Asuras, the gods, the dragons, living beings in 10 Dharma realms, 9 Dharma realms, and in every mode of dust, Buddha's turning the wonderful Dharma wheel. The Buddha Dharma brings us back to an animated view of the cosmos, and it puts human beings knit into the fabric of that, not on top of it. And that's the only vision that is going to save the planet. It may be too late, but as a Buddhist, when it's time to talk about ecology and the environment, I say living beings, interdependent, mutually depending on each other, and the sutras speak that way. So our religious texts embody this vision of an integrated cosmos where humans are not apart from it, but a part of it. And that's our proper place. And this human heavy has nearly destroyed it. So when the Buddha Dharma says all living beings are the Buddha nature, we all are part of this larger fabric of life, I say, yes, there's a vision we can sustain. So I'm thinking that we need to talk about this for the Buddha Dharma in the future. Bring the sutras forward. When we had a conversation at the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery with the physicists from UC Berkeley's physics department, hardcore scientists who wanted to find out about consciousness from the Avatamsaka Sutra. And so we talked about it, and they got so excited. The idea of mutually interdependent, of chong chong wu jin, multiply replicating without limit, of interdependence, of Indra's net. They said, this is the description of the cosmos that we're finding in our quantum bubble chambers. Where has this been? We said, well, it's been around for 2,500 years. Well, why didn't we know it? Well, how's your Chinese? I don't speak Chinese. Oh, well, then sit down, because we have a teacher who spent 9 years explaining this text so we could show you how the Buddha, through his wisdom eyes, talked about the universe. They go, show me that book, they said. So here are hardcore scientists, the people who the scientifically educated world are the high priests of that vision, quantum, physicists, and then on beyond quantum. They want to know what the Avatamsaka Sutra says because they're excited about it. How important are our translations? They're super important for bringing the world the Buddha's wisdom. Why have we been, I have to look in the mirror, why have we been so slow in bringing out what Shifu gave us 2 decades ago as the Buddha's wisdom? So that's my hope for the future of translations, is that we get these books out. If you go into the rest of the Buddhist world, Malaysia, for example, where people are educated in an English stream, they're Chinese Malaysians born in China, born in Malaysia, but they grew up speaking English. They spell their name, if their name is Chen, they spell it T-A-N with ABCs, not Ardong Chen, right? They don't, right? These are English-speaking Malaysians who are Buddhist, and yet they can't get access to the Dharma because the sutras are in Chinese. When someone shows up there speaking sutras in English, they are so grateful. People around the world are starving and thirsty for the Buddha's teaching in a way that takes it out of the code into the idiom that they actually live and speak in. That's what we have here in abundance. That's what Shifu gave us. And I say, I look in the mirror and think, I have not done much. I have not tried my best to bring those teachings to them. It's like, okay, yeah, sometimes. But we don't, I should be on fire bringing the Dharma in English with Shifu's encouragement to take it out of the commentaries into the Buddha's voice, into English, in language that people speak, so that they can find out what the Buddha said. And when we do that, you see these faces come alight. You see these hearts getting inspired. Finally, I've found some wisdom that works in my life. So I just want to encourage people to put your hearts into it, because the world is waiting and ready. Can't you see that now is the time, as the song goes. So that's another vision. Another place where I hope, Ron gave us snapshots, I'm going to give you one more. Psychology. Shifu said, call it the most profound depth psychology. Don't call it Buddhism, if it's going to create schisms and conflict. So people are very excited to see how the Buddha taught from the mind ground, Xindi, right? The analogy of the mind as a garden. Shifu said, the Buddha said, as they put it in the Buddha said, that here are the blueprints of the mind. The sutras are blueprints of the mind. It's how the mind works when you're beyond simple consciousness. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind consciousness. When you use the mind, integrate the Dharma practice into it, and take the shaping, the zhijian, the ways of knowing and the ways of seeing of the Dharma, what happens is you unlock these treasures of wisdom, which are all there like software in your hard drive waiting to be booted up through Dharma practice. And when that comes alive, what happens? Samadhi, right? Expedient wisdom, ways to teach, the 10 Dharma, the 10 powers, the wisdom powers of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, which are tools in teaching. Eloquence arises from that very same place. Finally, great Bodhi, Maha Bodhi, Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, and then great compassion. All comes from the same place. That's all in there in the mind. And that's psychology. And the Buddha says, here's how you do it. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 through your practices, And it's all there waiting for somebody to do it. And I think that's really what Shifu had in mind when he said, call it the most profound depth psychology. So, these are my wishes for those legacies. It's the same legacies. We just have to walk through them. We don't need to go out and find something else to do with our time. Shifu said, in this country, talk about virtue, don't talk about psychic powers. And it's not that psychic powers don't exist and that the magical side of the Buddha Dharma doesn't. It certainly does. We asked Shifu, why not talk about psychic powers? And Shifu said, 他们还早. They're not ready yet, meaning us, the West. In Asia, the Buddha Dharma has been there for centuries. People have watched humanity come and go. This is an Asian religion brought to the West. So in this country, if you talk about psychic powers, people shut you down. They do not want to hear about magic. Immediately you're suspect. And so when we talk about our teacher, here inside the Wanfo Dian, we can do that. Go outside and talk about knowledge of others' thoughts. Shifu read my mind. Shifu flew to heal somebody in their sick bed and he didn't move from where he was talking. A few can hear that, most will not. Most will say, no. That's magic. It's not, So there are many kinds of teaching, but Shifu said, in this country, virtue, not psychic powers. So how does that work? Two stories. Terry this morning talked about that encounter with the Christian demonstrators on the eve of the World Religions Conference that we held here in '87. My memory of it was different. I don't know if Terry is here tonight, but similar, but slightly different. The conference began, and outside the gate were these demonstrators, and they were some local Ukiah Valley fundamentalist group, and they were wearing sackcloth and ashes, those cliches from the Bible. They had these big, long, white robes made of rough cloth, and they had a rope belt around them tied in a knot, and had big signs that says, Jesus hates what you do. Your teachings are false. And one of them, this big guy, he must have been 6'4". He had a long beard down to his belly button, and he had a cross, a big rough-hewn cross. I couldn't have lifted it. He had it on his shoulder, and they were walking in a circle around the main gate of the city of 10,000 Buddhas. So it was Reed Smith, Hung Wu, who called Shifu on the phone and says, Shifu, 他们示威了. They're demonstrating, Shifu. Shifu said, really? I'll be right down, he said. So he came down in his golf cart. He didn't walk. He was riding his golf cart. And Shifu said, I'm going out to talk to him. And we all said, Hung Wu, go. Hung Wu was also about 6'3", so he was the biggest guy we had. Hung Lai wasn't there at the time. So we said, go with him, protect Shifu. So Hung Wu jumped in the golf cart and went out with him. Hung Wu came back and told us this story. At the time, we were calling Hung Wu the Hei Mian Jingang. He looked fierce. He could scowl. He was the black-faced Vajra. So he got his best scowl and got ready to go out. And so he says, Shifu went right out, jumped out of the golf cart, and ran right up to the biggest guy, the big guy with the beard and the cross. And at this point, Terry's story pretty much coincides, but she didn't tell the whole thing. Shifu said, he said, you're out here demonstrating. He said, it's really hot out here. I'll bet you're tired. This must be hard work. He said, why don't you come inside and demonstrate? We have Coca-Cola. We have cool water. We have milk. What do you like? He said, come on in. And he grabbed the robe of this biggest guy. And Shifu was, tall for a Chinese. He came from Manchuria. But this guy was a head taller. Shifu grabbed his robe and starts to tug on his robe. And this guy giggled. He couldn't help. He would and then he realized he lost his face. Yeah, right. Shifu said, no, it's too hot out here. It's cool. He said, we have beds. You can demonstrate sitting down. You can demonstrate lying down, whatever you like, he said. And they all looked at each other, and they huddled. They went in a big huddle. And one by one, these signs went clunk, clunk, clunk on the ground. Bonk, like that. And they huddled. And then they turned, got in their vehicles, and drove away. and drove away. And that was that. Oh, I left out a line. The punchline. No, well, Shiva said one more thing. He said, I want you to come inside. Why can I say this? I say this because I have Jesus' spirit of self-sacrifice when they nailed him on the cross. I really want you to come inside, he said. That was when they dropped the cross. You know, it was like, we must be in the wrong place. You know. So they drove away. And so Shifu got back in the golf cart and went back to the office. And we're all going, Shifu, you're okay? Shifu said, He said, I tell you all the time, no fighting. He said, that's how I practice no fighting. We're all, yeah. Okay, Terry left out this part entirely. We went to the World Religions Conference in at that time, I think we were in the small, what was the Medicine Buddha Hall then, I believe, or it might have been the Wordless Hall. And so we're meeting, and then there was a knock on the door. And we went to open the door. Who came in? The demonstrators came in. They had gone back, washed their faces, put on better clothes, and came in with their Bibles ready to convert us. But they came. And every now and then they would like shout somebody down, and Sherpa would say, oh, no, not your turn. You wait a minute. What were you saying? And then the conversation would go on, and then they would say, okay, your turn. And just that bit of teaching and transforming, like Dharma Master Lai says, everybody got taught and just civilized them. And they realized when they started shouting, it didn't make much sense. Because in that room, wisdom prevailed, not volume or meanness. And so after they realized they sounded kind of dumb, you know, if they didn't make sense. And so they kind of, you tell them. Well, no, you tell them, you know. Then they had to listen, and they had lunch with us, and then they went home. Tom McMillan, the Methodist, the preacher here in town, the Baptist preacher, who was our good friend, said after they left, he said, you know, he said, we Christians have had trouble with this group for years. Nobody can do anything with them. Venerable Master, you tamed them. Sherpa said, that's what I mean by no fighting. He said, oh, yeah. Okay. So, that's the virtue side. The magic side, and this is the last thing I want to say. The magic side is Helen's story from this morning. Helen mentioned that Sherpa came down to her house. I don't know if Helen's still here. Sherpa came down to her house in Pasadena. And I was a novice monk at the time. I had just left home. And Helen arranged for a refuge ceremony at this civic center somewhere. And it was the largest refuge ceremony ever held maybe in California. There were 230 people who were there sweating in the heat. The air conditioner didn't work in the LA summer, and we were sweating, and they took refuge. Shifu was smiling and teaching a mile a minute. It was great to watch. Then we went to Helen's house, and it seemed that the word had gone out to LA Chinatown that the Venerable Master had come. And Helen is a really good communicator, liaison type. And so all these people, all the old long white-bearded Chinese and the various kung fu masters showed up. And I was sitting there with Sherpa when this one hotshot came in. This guy was some Shentong teacher. He was a psychic power guy. And he came in, you know, if this was a Western movie, he had guns in his belt, and he was coming to shoot it out with the big, you know, the tough sheriff. Of course, it wasn't a Western movie, but that was the way he swaggered in. He comes in, he's like this. He's looking at Sherpa, looking him up and down. You know, and I saw Sherpa sit on the couch, and Sherpa relaxed and kind of opened his chest a little bit. You could see that Sherpa was ready, you know. The old sheriff was ready, you know. And so this guy says, he says, 如果一切空呢，何必修行呢? He says, if everything's empty, why bother cultivating? He figured he had him. One shot, it was over, you know. If everything's empty, why bother cultivating? Shifu gets even softer. Shifu says, 如果一切空呢，何必问呢? Shifu said, if everything's empty, why do you bother to ask? And the guy realized, of course, his gun was empty. You know, he was a one-shot gunslinger. So that was over. So he joined in. He sat down next to Shifu and, okay, I'll learn, you know. Shifu taught him in one sentence. He crossed him over. So, okay, so there we are. And there was a woman that Helen had invited who was a nurse, a Swedish nurse in the Navy. She was a Navy nurse from Sweden in the U.S. Navy. And she was said to be a psychic. That was her reputation. So, as I said, Shifu said, in the West, talk about virtue. But when you're with people who understand that we are made of the four elements pasted together until the earth, air, fire, and water dissolve, and inside is something else. Inside is this nature, this potential Buddha, and this living being. We come and go like musical chairs, said Shifu, you know, through the six paths until we wake up. So the Swedish nurse was sitting there, and I'm sorry, Shifu was sitting in the seat, and Shifu said, oh, she's come, Venerable Sir, here's the nurse. And so Shifu says, come here. And so she came, and she's very respectful. She looked at Shifu. She knelt down, and Shifu went like this. He said, what do you see? What do you see? And this woman looks at his hand. She says, I see an eye. He's got an eye right in the palm of his hand. In fact, he's got hundreds of eyes all over his body, she said. And then she started to cry. She was crying, and it was just a combination of gratitude and amazement. And this very nurse-looking person, a Navy nurse, she looked like she was a little girl. And she said, this teacher has countless living beings under his heart, she said. And that's his quote, because I was translating. This teacher has countless living beings under his heart, she said. And Shifu said, what's all? Pretty good, said Shifu. So she sat down beside him, you know. So one by one, Shifu teaches and transforms living beings. Now I want to add a line to Marty's story too. I hear all these stories differently. Shifu said, Marty quoted Shifu saying, you know, long ago you all made vows to come to that far-off place to... I got you. Don't tell it. My turn. Okay. I'm going to step on your story here. Okay. See, I was going to tell that story, and I thought, oh, he told it, you know. But he left out the last line. Ha! The punchline. Teamwork, right? So, Shifu said, some of you made vows to be monks and nuns. Some of you made, you heard it. You heard his story. And then Shifu said, long ago and far away, from Vairochana Buddha's Dharma assembly, he said, we made those vows. And so, here we are, in the middle of a dream, doing the work of the Buddha, he said. So here we are, in the middle of a dream, doing the work of the Buddha. One day, in Taiwan, 110 degrees, Shifu was ill. We were heading to Miaofa Si in Taoyuan. Shifu needed to rest. He wanted to just lie down, I assume. And he knew that when he got to Taoyuan, there was going to be 1,000 people lining up to get his blessings, to take his energy, to be taught by him, healed by him, crossed over by him. And he was telling us on the bus to speak Dharma. And the bus was stuck in traffic because everybody was going to Miaofa Si. Traffic was slow to a crawl. It took, and ordinarily it was a half-hour drive, and it took 2 hours to get there. And it was sweltering in the bus. Shifu didn't feel well, and he was teaching us to speak Dharma. One by one, people just came out and to the center and said, my name is Go Hui, and Shifu told me to come back. And so, one by one, we all took turns telling stories, or speaking Dharma, and Shifu was there listening so hard, And he went through the whole bus, and one by one, we all spoke the Dharma, and somehow it felt very cool inside that bus, although it was sweltering hot. And the time, although we were stuck in traffic for hours, it seemed to pass so quickly. And I remember the last thing Shifu said before we got there. And I'd like to say that to everybody who might potentially come forward to help translate the sutras and bring it to the world that needs the sutras. Shifu said, who else wants to speak the Dharma? Don't be lazy. These people have spared no expense to bring you all the way here from America. Can you just eat your fill and wait to die? You owe them some teachings to repay their kindness. Who will be the next wise advisor? Don't wait for me to spoon feed you all your life. All right, who will it be? Step up here. Next. Amitofo.
What a wonderful feast we've had today. We want to conclude the evening by transferring the merit. And Dharma Master Shur, I believe, will lead us in that.
Maybe wait a moment. Let's put it on the screen. What?
Do you have it?
Yes. Let me get it, sir.
Okay. We have a dedication of merit in English, and here at City of 10,000 Buddhas on Sunday nights we've been practicing this for a couple of years, and actually Dharma Master Heng Lu and I are the co-authors of this in English, and it's Yuan Yi Si Gong de translated into English, not word for word, so it's been interpolated from it. And we borrowed a melody from Lorena McKennett, who's a highly respected Canadian songwriter. She graciously gave us permission to borrow her melody. And this version has a history. This song first arrived 8 days after 9/11. This happened in 9/19/2001. We were going to a Buddhist Catholic conference in Indiana at Our Lady of Grace Benedictine Convent. Dharma Master Liu and I went. And it was about a book called Benedict's Dharma that had just come out. The Benedictines invited the Buddhists to make a commentary on their rule of Saint Benedict, their precious Bai Zhang Qing Gui, their rule for the monasteries. So we were there, and because you'll remember when the Twin Towers were destroyed, the planes stopped flying for days, and immediately half of the people canceled their participation in this conference that had been planned for months. We decided to try it, and so we went, and it turns out, if you will remember what it was like back at that time, churches were full. The churches all over the country, people were just jammed in the churches. And so another 100 people didn't come to the conference, 200 more came locally. And so at the end, the nun in charge, Sister Mary Margaret Funk, said to Hung Lu and myself, "You Buddhists do transference of merit. Will you do one for us?" In English. So we went, "Oh my gosh, we don't have one in English." So we took Yani Tse Gung De and translated it. And the words just flowed. And the melody came on an inspiration. And so the next morning, when the conference was over, we all filed out with candles to around the Blessed Virgin, the plaster Mother Mary, out in front of the parking lot. And there were 300 people there holding candles and with mimeoed sheets of the new dedication of merit. I didn't have a guitar, I had a little recorder instrument. And to get the melody, that was all there was. And we explained this. We said, in the Buddhist tradition, very much like the Catholic petitionary prayer, we take the merit of any kind of goodness that we've created, be it prayer, be it meditation, a Dharma assembly, devotion, and we share that merit with our minds. We send it out with a wish for goodness. And you can do it any way you like, whatever wish you have for the world, for living beings, for your mom who may be depressed, or your grandma who's fearing about her future because she sees mortality ahead. Maybe you have a social wish that wars end in the world, or that AIDS just go away or stop, or that people wake up and stop being so greedy and bleeding the earth of its precious resources till they're infinitely gone. That we wake up and stop doing that, to be better human beings, better neighbors on the planet. Whatever your wish is, it's your wish. Please make that wish. Your wish might be that all beings lead a Christ-like life. Your wish may be that all beings quickly become Buddhas. So whatever it is, make your wish, we said. So we had people put their palms together, and we sang it together. And when we were done, people came up to us and said, "Something about that song. You know, I came into this with my heart so heavy, terrorized and grief-stricken, and it felt like this song just released something. We kind of felt it almost take wing and fly off and vanish, and we felt lighter and better afterwards." So that was the first time this song was sung at Our Lady of Grace Benedictine Convent in Beech Grove, Indiana in 2001. And since this time, this dedication of merit has gone many places. Many Catholic groups do it, many Buddhist groups, interfaith songbooks. And so we've been doing it here at City of 10,000 Buddhas as well. So I would like to invite everybody, please, if you could put your palms together and make that wish, the transference wish of the Bodhisattva. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's 10th vow. You send it out because minds touch in the world. There's no place in space where my mind stops and yours begins. And if we make this wish together, it becomes very powerful. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may their minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light break the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Shall we stand and end the evening with, Brian, do you have any closing? Did you prepare? Okay, should we do 3 bows to the Buddhas and then 3 bows to Shifu? First bow. Second bow. Third bow. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. I believe that actually closes our Master Lu. Do we have any announcements for tomorrow? Today was very hard for everyone. That's to say, a lot of effort, hard work, 辛苦, go away. Tomorrow, as we heard, please dress warmly for the morning chanting because it's chilly. We're out in the tent. And we'll see you tomorrow for the 17th commemoration of the Venerable Masters entering Nirvana, and then a day of arts program and piano concert. Don't miss it. 大家晚安，阿弥陀佛。